In today's tutorial, let's learn how to do the stepping texture hat, and this is a fabulous hat using Bernat Softy Chunky yarn. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today we're going to explore this amazing free pattern. It's called the Stepping Textured Hat. Look how fabulous this is. It does have a spiral look to it, and it consists of three things. You have the brim, the body, and the pom-pom. So we're going to be exploring all three elements of this particular pattern, and I did mine in about 2 hours. If you can imagine, it's one of those hot off the hook projects, nice and quick and easy. To play with today's tutorial, you just only need 2 balls of Bernat Softy Chunky yarn. Today I'm going to use natural, but this was berry red and I thought it was kind of fun, and there is a really kind of funky pom-pom. I really like my pom-poms to be kind of wild idea on top so it doesn't look so store-made, and because I really do like the homemade look. You're also going to need an 8mm size L crochet hook today. So let's explore the brim together. The brim is actually done separately, and then we add the body of the hat later, and then of course the pom-pom. So you just have to visualize the brim as like Karate Kid. You know, remember when he was wearing a headband? It's a very much of a band that's done separately, and then we add the body of the hat afterward. Now the band is actually really neat, and because we're using the back loops only, we get this fabulous stretch so that it always will stretch back to your head. It's one of those things in crochet that is some stitches when you go to stretch it, it'll never come back. So if you've overstretched it, you're way out of luck. But this is because it's using the back loops. You'll always have the stretch on this hat, and that's what's gonna even make it more fabulous, plus last a really long time. The next part of this hat, we're going to explore then the textures, and you can notice that it goes up and into a spiral. It is amazing. I have to say, once you understand this pattern and you understand how the spiral is working, you are going to probably even put your instructions down because you're gonna know exactly what to do. The trick is you need to know when to stop in order to do the final part of the top of the hat. But you can see it's actually really easy, and we're just working with front posts and back posts, double crochet, in order to make this work. The last part of this tutorial, we're going to explore the pom-pom, and we're going to be doing a lot of great things with it. Now you'll notice that my pom-pom is pretty crazy. It's not nicely manicured like the one in the model. I just think if it's homemade, why make it so manicured? I want to be proud that it is homemade, so I just don't want people to think that I bought it in the store, because when they compliment me at the coffee shop, I'm gonna say I made it myself. So it's one of those things, if you want homemade, you know, having stuff that looks kind of crazy at the end is actually part of the charm of a hat. We can't forget that as a crocheter too. So without further ado, let's explore how to do the brim, and then we'll get started on the body of the hat after that. Today's pattern consists of a free diagram that you can see right here, but when we're doing the brim, you don't even need to pay attention to this. This is for the actual top of the hat once you get beyond the brim, and then we're going to be exploring. Now when you go to print yours out, it will not be highlighted just like you see it on the screen here. I did that for myself to show how it's doing the texture look. You can obviously grab a highlighter or a special color pencil or something in order to highlight it for you if that makes sense for you. For me, this totally makes sense. So what we're going to do is that we're going to explore this diagram, but we don't need to see it right now because we're going to explore the brim first. So here is the yarn, and I'm gonna start off with the slip knot, and it says to chain 7. So you're gonna flip out at the next part of the instructions, but you have to trust me because I flipped out and then I realized I shouldn't have. You know how dramatic I can be. So we have one on the hook. This doesn't count as one, and so it says we want to chain 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So this is the funny thing about it. When I saw this, it says slip stitch in each of the stitches going back. So from the second from the hook, we slip stitch, and you're thinking to yourself, Mikey, slip stitching doesn't really take that much height. It's gonna take forever to get around the brim, but because this is chunky yarn, this goes a lot more quicker than you realize, and thank goodness for that. So second chain from the hook, just turn it around, get that back hump only, and just insert your hook in, grab your yarn, and pull through and through. So we're just gonna slip stitch. Okay, so right here, slip stitch the next one and go all the way back. Now because we went second chain from the hook, there will only be 6 stitches going across. So that was 3. You don't really need to count it. The height, the height of the brim doesn't really impact the actual stitches of the hook as well, or the stitches of the hat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got one more to go. So just going in, just like this. So once we get here, we're gonna finish, and let's turn this project around and start making the brim. So we're gonna turn this around, and the really cool effect on what you're seeing on the hat is achieved by using the back loops only. So when you look at crochet, you see that there's 2 strings, 1 and 2. The one that's closest to you, so both of them equal 1 stitch, but if you just went into the first one, that'd be the front loop, and if you went into the back one, it would be the back loop. So what we need to do for this entire project is that we come into the very starting and we go into the back loop only, and we're gonna slip stitch our way across on the back loops only. And that's how we're gonna do this entire brim. So 1, okay, so going into the next one, again back loop only. And this is going to train you to be easy on those on the slip stitching. If you're tight on your tension, especially with slip stitching, it can be your worst nightmare, but this is actually a good training video or training project in order for you to get the actual correct tension. Okay, so you wanna come all the way back across. Again, the back loops, including the back loop on the very end as well. I just want to count my stitches to make sure that I'm okay. So I have 1 2 3 4 5. So the very last one, again back loop of the last stitch, pull through and through. So now you're gonna turn your project. Don't worry how it looks right now, because it doesn't always make sense in the way things look. You're going to chain 1 first, and again back loop only on the first one, and then just slip stitch across. So because this is a big hook, it's a big yarn, the slip stitching actually fills in really nicely and provides a really nice tight brim. Now because it is slip stitching on the back loops only, you're gonna have some stretching to it. So this hat is like, you know, usually with crochet, if you stretch it, it doesn't retain its it doesn't come back, it always just stays out. But because you're using the back loops only, is that you're always going to have the stretching available to you. So you just turn your work and continue to go in the back loops only. So you can either go, as per the pattern, to 21 inches for a complete length of this whole part, or you can just keep measuring it around your head and just have it snug on your head, but not like overly stretching it. Okay, so if you're overly stretching it, it's gonna not look good and it's gonna be too tight for you. So just have it nice and snug, but just watch that. So continue to go back and forth, back loops only with slip stitching, and I'll see you back here when I get this done. And do you see the nice look that it's done? It's excellent. Okay, so I'm back, and about a half hour of real time has gone by, and I've done the entire brim, and it fits around my head, and I'm really happy with it. So now that I got the size that I want, you can either do the 21 inches that it requires, or you can just kind of customize it for your own head. So now what we want to do is that we don't want to fasten off. We want to carry this yarn. We're not going to fasten off at all, and simply just take it and just kind of fold it so it's kind of together. Not kind of, so that it is together. Okay, and so we don't want this any weird twist, so make sure that it is a brim of a hat. So what we're going to do is that we're just gonna take this yarn where it is right now, and we're going to insert it into the back loop of the next one and pull through and through like so. So let's go through the back loop of the next stitch that's available to you right here, and we go into the back loop of the other one on the other side. So this is creating a seam. Now the nice thing about this particular design is that because you're doing this, is that the seam will always have to be at the back of the hat too. So it's kind of neat. So we just want to continue to match the two together. So you are looking at the good side of the project at this time if somebody asks you. And so by doing this particular slip stitching all the way down, you're matching exactly what the stitches look like, so you won't really see it at all. At least I couldn't find it on mine unless I really look. Okay, once you get all the way down to the bottom, okay, you're just gonna do your very last one, and we are going to review the pattern. I'm gonna take up to show you the diagram because that's the next part of this tutorial. So now I've just slip stitched all the way down through, and so on the grand scheme of things you don't really see it unless I tell you to look for it, but it's actually looking really good at this point. So let's pull up the diagram and let's review. So now that your brim is complete, we're ready to go, but here's the diagram. So what we're going to do is we're gonna start off with double crochets that go along the top of the brim. Okay, so we did not fasten off our yarn and we're gonna go all the way around. So I told you that I measured it around my head and that it fit. But what happens when we have different head sizes and you try to customize it for your own head? So here's the trick. The pattern consists of 5 stitches in order to make the textured work. Do you see how it's going up on an angle just like this? Well, the trick is that if you have a different size head other than the average size head that's in the pattern, then you can actually customize the pattern in order to work for you. Sorry, I'm kinda giggling here. So if you have a different size head than what the model has, then you can actually just customize it really easily. The trick is that you have to keep it in sets of 5. So if you keep it in sets of 5, even no matter what size head you got, you're always gonna be successful with this particular pattern. Now what we have here is that you see that there's chain 3s that work up into the rows just like you see there. Well, those are building chains. Those are not counted as any one of the stitches at all. So what I'm gonna show you in the next part of this tutorial is that I'm gonna show you how to keep it in sets of 5, and then you're gonna be able to make this hat work for you no matter what size head you have. So let's do that next. So let's begin, and you can see this is the brim of the hat. So as I promised, you can customize this hat for you. So just chain up 3. This is a building chain. That's what I'm gonna call it. You can call it anything that you want. That's what I'm gonna call it. So it doesn't count as any one of these stitches. So what I want you to do is that we had slip stitching to make the brim, but when you slip stitch across, it's like a half a size of a single crochet. So I think that if you actually just go into every one of these ribs that you see just once into each, it actually equals a single crochet, if that makes any sense. And it really does make sense. You just gotta bear with me. So we're just gonna double crochet and we're just gonna slam our hook into a stitch. Okay, so we're just gonna go into a spot and commit to it. So if you go into this spot on this particular ridge, then you're gonna go into the same spot. Now this is gonna be a little bit tight. Nothing wrong with that, and you can just get your hook in there and just work it out. You do want it tight. You don't want this particular part of the hat to be sloppy. Nobody likes a sloppy hat. So what we're going to do is that I just committed that I'm just gonna be on the top of the rib. So that was 1, and I want to count to 5, so you have to use 5 fingers for that. So just grab the hook and go into the ridge just like you see. So I went right into the middle of the next one. So that was 2. I know. Do you feel an episode of Sesame Street coming on? You might. So let's go into the next one. Again, it's a ridge. Yeah, I'm getting it. That's fine. And now we're gonna go in for another one, the next one for 4. And then we're gonna do another one for 5. So I want you to go all the way around the brim, keeping it in groups of 5, and at the end I'm gonna show you how to be able to add or subtract stitches in order to keep it in groups of 5. So just keep going 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, and then I'll meet you back at the end and I'll show you how to be able to manipulate it in order to keep the pattern consistent for you. So as promised, I've come all the way back around and my next stitch is 40, but look at this, I actually have 2 stitches left. So what I can do to manipulate this pattern for me is that I can do a 2 together. So I could just go into the 1 stitch and pull through 2 and hold, and then go into the next one, go through, pull through 2 and hold, and then I can make that one those 2 stitches into 1, and it actually makes a lot of sense if you can do that. And then I just join to the top of the chain 3. The chain 3 never counts as any one of these stitches, but it comes together just like so. So for example, say you came around and say you had 3 stitches left that you had to do in order to keep it in the sets of 5. What I would have done is that I would have double crocheted into the 3, but I've slammed in 2 extra stitches somewhere in the last section here in order to make it work, because that's what I did here with the hat. And you really cannot tell that I did that. So in this part of the tutorial for right at the brim, you can actually do a great job of faking it in order to get the pattern to work for you, in order to make it really kind of consistent. So that's a really kind of a cool tip. So let's move along. We're going to dissect some of the diagram now, and I'm gonna show you how to play with some of the back loops, or sorry, the back posts and the front post next. We're gonna start doing round number 2, and we're now going to start doing the front post and the back post in order to create this lines just like you see. You see nice beautiful texture just like this. Isn't that fabulous? And basically I took a highlighter and just highlighted it so it's very clear to me what I need to do. It's easier to follow it off camera anyway that you can't see, but you can do this with the pattern too in order for you to be really kind of successful. So what we're going to do is that the first 3 stitches are going to be front post double crochet, and then the next 2 are back post double crochet, and then there's gonna be 3 front post double crochet, and then 2 back post double crochet. So because what's 3 plus 2? That's your 5. So I told you to keep it in sets of 5 or groups of 5 when we were just doing what we're doing, and because of that the next round will always work out because you've been keeping them in groups of 5. So this basically round number 1 that we've already done, if you got that and you were successful with that, the rest of this pattern is gonna whip off really amazingly in your hand, and you're going to love this pattern because it's gonna be very easy to follow. So let's move on to round number 2 next. Let's move on to round number 2, and remember what I said, the chain 3 never counts as a stitch within this entire project. It's a building chain, and that's what I'm gonna call it, and that's what I'm gonna refer to it from the rest of on. So if I'm saying a building chain, exactly that's what it is. It's just a building chain. Please do not count it as a stitch. Let's chain 3 now. So 1, 2 and 3, and as per the diagram it said to do 3 front post double crochet and then 2 back post double crochet. So what we're gonna do is that we're just gonna get the first stitch, so don't count this chain 3 as anything, and just front post double crochet into the next 3. So 1, 2 and 3. Okay, there we go. And remember, if you're ever looking for crochet tutorial tips on different stitches, of course we have those here on our YouTube channel as well. And the next 2 are back posts, so we're gonna wrap the hook and go into the back post for the next 2 back post double crochet, I should say. And we're gonna do that. So that's the repeat pattern for this entire round, and you are going to continue to that. So let's just review that one more time. So we're going to do front post double crochet for the next 3. So 1, 2 and 3, and then we're gonna go for the back post double crochet for 2. And I want you to continue that same pattern and going all the way around, and when I come back we'll just show you where to fasten off with the slip stitch, or where to join with the slip stitch, and then we're gonna move on, and then we're gonna start seeing the spiral effect taking effect on the project as well. So continue that, and I'll see you in just a moment. So I'm finishing up round number 2, and there will be finishing up with 2 back post double crochet, and then we're just going to join it to the top of the chain 3. So at this point I need you to review this particular row. You need to make sure that there is 2 back post double crochet and then 3 front post double crochet evenly all the way around. This round here, if you mess this up, the rest of your pattern will not be consistent. So it's really critical at this point that this part of your hat will actually be done properly, because all of the texture now starts revolving in more of a spiral effect once you go beyond this row. So let's move on to round number 3. Round number 3, remember we're doing the building chain. We've already discussed that. So it's just a chain 3. So this time what we're going to do is that we're going to shift all of the stitches towards this hand that you see here. Okay, right here. And basically I'm having you shift over by 1. So basically you're always gonna have a group of 5 stitches. There's always gonna be 3 front post double crochet, and there's always gonna be 2. So if you're gonna shift over by 1, it means that the very first one will be a back post double crochet, and if you look at the pattern that's true too. So the first one is a back post double crochet, and if you can understand how it's shifting over by 1, the rest of this pattern will totally make sense to you, because you're seeing how it's coming together. So the next 3 will be a front post double crochet. So that is number 2 of the 3. So the third one right here is actually in the back right now, but we're gonna go forward, so we're just gonna use this as a front post this time to pull it forward, and this is what creates that spiraling effect of the textures. The next 2 are gonna be back post double crochet, so the one is already in the back, okay, which makes sense because we've only shifted over by 1 and there was 2 in a row, and the next one here you see it's in the front, but this time it's gonna be in the back because we've shifted over by 1. So let's review that one more time. So we're going to go, the next 3 are front post double crochet. So that was 2, and going for the third. So the third one is in the back section here, but we're gonna pull it forward this time because it's gonna be a front this time, and then the next 2 are back post double crochet. So I want you to continue to keep that patterning going the same all the way around, and when we come back we'll do the slip stitch and then move you on to round number 4. So I'm finishing up round number 3, and we want to keep the patterning consistent. So the next one, I got 2 stitches left, so the next one is just a front post double crochet, and the final is just one back post double crochet. So the last round we had, round number 2, we ended with 2 back post double crochet. Well, this time it's only 1 because everything is shifting over. So if you can understand that, you can actually kind of figure out how to change things if you really wanted to. So once you have that done, you're just going to join to the top of the chain 3 with a slip stitch, just like that, and then you can move on. So let's begin round number 4 next. So let's begin round number 4. Round number 4, let's start on our building chains just like so, and again everything is shifting over by 1. So the first 2 are going to be a back post double crochet, and if you look at the pattern you will totally agree with that as well. So you can really kind of see, so you do really have to keep an eye on your row counts in order to have the hat sized properly for you, but in this process right now you're just more paying attention to where the texture is and how to match it. So the next 3, because we've just done 2 back post double crochet, the next 3 are going to be front post double crochet. Okay, so the next one, there's one more and it's in the back right now, but we're going to pull it forward and that creates that shifting look, and then the next 2 are back post double crochet. Okay, so continue that same patterning going all the way around, just with 3 front post double crochet next, and then 2 back post double crochet after that, and I'll see you back and we'll finish up round number 4 together. So I'm finishing up round number 4, and round number 4 will then have 3 front post double crochets as my final, which makes sense because the first 2 that we started with were back post double crochet. So do you see that? So this is the building chain. We're just going to join to the top of that with a slip stitch and move on to round number 5. Round number 5, we're going to start off by chaining 3. This is the building chain, and so we have 2 back post double crochet and 3 front post double crochet here, and we're shifting over by 1. So this means the first one is going to be a front post double crochet this time, and that's what it says in the pattern as well, and then the next 2 are back post double crochet. Okay, so these are back post double crochet for these 2, and then the next 3 are front post double crochets. 1, 2, and the third one is the one in the back here. It's coming forward this time, and then the next 2 are back post. So continue that same patterning going all the way around for round number 5. Coming up to the end of round number 5, you only have 2 stitches left, and those are 1 front post double crochet into each of those 2. And that makes sense because we started off with just 1 on the other side before going into 2 back posts over here. Let's just join it again to the top of the chain 3, and let's move on to round number 6. So round number 6 is going to start off with chaining of 3, and again we look at the pattern and it has actually, we have 2 front post double crochet to go in because we only have 1 right now. We're shifting over, so the first 2 are going to be front post double crochet only, and then the next 2 are back post double crochet. And I want to explain something in just a moment here. I just want to get beyond this step. So 2 back post double crochet. So then you continue to repeat that patterning of front post double crochet for 3 and then 2 back post double crochet. So in the pattern that we have is that I want to show you something. So in the pattern today that we have repeats around from 2 all the way to 6. So we have to do 2 again all the way to number 6. Number 6 we have to finish off like this in order to do the top. So 1, 2, and 3 is the top of the finishing of the hat. So there's only 3 rounds to do in order to do the closure of the top of the hat. So once we get beyond this level 6 we need to go all the way back to 2, and I'm gonna have you do 2 to 6 all the way again. You can either reverse the video or just look at the patterning and just do it again, and then we're gonna come back and then we're gonna do the top of the hat. So at this time just continue to go around. I'll show you how to slip stitch again, and then you can repeat from 2 to 6 on your own. So I'm just finishing up round number 6 and I'm continuing the pattern as normal. And I'm finishing off with 1 front post double crochet, and just this is the last one right here, and that makes sense because the first 2 when we started were front post double crochet over here. So we're gonna just join with a slip stitch. So I need you to go back to round number 2 and do round number 2 to 6 one more time, and then we're gonna come back and then we're going to do rounds number 1, 2, and 3 for the top of the hat after that. So now I've repeated all the way from 2 to 6 one more time, and so now I have the whole length, and now it's just 3 more rounds in order for me to finish off. To be quite transparent with you, I do have some loose ends here, and I just changed my yarn ball over, and that's why you see that. So you probably will not have that. I cut my yarn, so I had that. So I'm going to start off, and we're gonna start off I'm just joining it right now. That doesn't include it in the tutorial. So let's start off with round number 1 of the closure, and there's 3 rounds altogether. The top of the hat consists of keeping that spiraling effect continuing, but we're actually going to start removing out some stitches every now and then in order to create that top of the hat. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by chaining a 3. So 1, 2, and 3. That's your building chains as normal, and the first 3 are going to be a front post double crochet. So right now you have 2 in there from round number 6, so we're gonna there's gonna be 3 this time to keep that spiraling moving. So 1, 2, and 3. And in this particular one we want to skip the next back post double crochet, and we want to do a back post double crochet around the next one. Okay, so we're gonna skip this one right here. Okay, and just go the second one over. So we're gonna be eliminating out a stitch. Okay, so here's the repeat pattern. So the next 3 are going to be front post double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. We skip the next stitch, which is a back post, and we back post the second one over. Okay, so continue that same patterning going all the way around. Let's review one more time. So we just finished a back post, so the next one is 3 front post double crochet in a row. Okay, we skip the next one, which is a back post, and we back post the second one over. So this is the very last time we're ever gonna do back posts in this entire project in this particular round. So continue that same thing going all the way around. So I'm continuing that same patterning going all the way around, and I just want to be just matching exactly what I'm supposed to do here. Okay, so I'm just finishing up 3 front post double crochets, and then I'm skipping 1, and then I'm back post crocheting in the other. So this loose end, don't worry about it. You will not probably have that on yours. Okay, and now I've just I've skipped 1, I'm back post double crochet on the next one, and then here is the chain 3, and we're just gonna join it to the top of chain 3. So that concludes round number 1, and you can see that it's actually come more narrow now. It's kind of subtle at this point, but now that you've eliminated out a stitch, it's gonna get faster and faster. Let's move on to round number 2 of the final. So round number 2 is very, very easy. We're just gonna do our chain 3, our building chains, and then basically every front post double crochet is gonna get a front post double crochet, and we're gonna skip over the back post double crochets this time. So this front post double crochet into the next 3. So this allows the pattern to maintain its own self. Okay, and we're gonna skip over the back post double crochet and just immediately just front post double crochet the next 3 front post double crochets, and continue to do that all the way around. So that's a very easy round. When you come back around the very last back post double crochet, you are skipping over, so you're just gonna, once you get your last 3 in there, you're just gonna slip stitch to the top of the chain 3. So that was round number 2. So now it's even more narrower at the top, just like you see here. So let's move on to the final round, and then we're gonna be playing with finishing this off and then doing the pom-pom next. Let's do the final round. We're gonna chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're gonna front post double crochet the first 2 front post double crochets here, and then we're going to skip over the next one. Okay, so we're gonna skip over the next one and jump to the next. So they're kind of in groups of 3 already, and so you're kind of skipping the last one of the group of 3 for each one. Okay, so once you get 2 in there, skip, and then here's your next group of 3, so you're only doing the first 2 only. Okay, continue that all the way around. When you get all the way back around, you're skipping the last front post double crochet because you've already got the 2 in there, and you're just gonna join it at the top of the chain 3. So that concludes on the actual written instructions, and you'll notice that you'll have a hole in the top. So what I want you to do is cut about a 2-foot string or strand with the yarn at this point, and get a darning needle and just pull this through. So pull that strand all the way through, and then we're gonna be right back, and I'm gonna show you how to close this off properly. So the next part of this tutorial is that I want you to put that string on a really wide eye darning needle, and get all of the plies through it, just like so. And what I want to do is that I want to go in a clockwise motion. So if you're left-handed, you'll go in a counterclockwise thing, and I want you to just slip your hook or your needle through some stitches. So you're basically just going through almost every stitch, like so. And what we're doing here is that we're gonna just do like a clothesline and pull it tight, and it will close off the top of the hat. Okay, so once I get all of them done, I'm just gonna pull and have the whole interior. See, and pull it shut. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna insert the needle across the way. So directly across. I'm not gonna worry about that. And then I'm gonna just come back in just a little bit over and go across again. And then just again back in. So I kind of go across 3 times. And then what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna tie it. So I'm just gonna go in, insert underneath the hook or under the needle and do it a couple times. And what I want to do is put the needle down through the center and just turn make sure it comes inside the hat. So you can see all the joining of the yarns that I did in the pattern. Okay, so I'm coming inside, and what I want to do is I want to tie it. So I just want to go under a few fibers on the inside of the hat and tie it off. And then just at the very end, I just go in and I just weave it in a few more fibers, and then I can safely trim that, and I know it will never come out. I can also trim off my other yarns that I've also been carrying through every time I've changed yarns. Okay, so now we have to move to the pom-pom. So this is what the hat looks like right now without the pom-pom. I just think the pom-pom is a really nice final touch. Okay, you can kind of really see the texture, but let's do a pom-pom next. Play with. So what I want to do as per the pattern is that I want to hold out my hand like so, and I want to wrap kind of loosely. Don't take any pressure out of your hands, and just loosely and count to 100. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So just continue to wrap your hand. Just kind of use this part of your hand, this whole section right there, and just continue to wrap until you get to 100, and then I'll meet you back here in just a moment. So now I have 100 revolutions on my hand, and I want to take the scissors and I want to cut. So I don't want to remove it off my hand yet, and I want to just take this yarn and just cut it like so. And I want to just take this yarn and just cut a generous length. Okay, kind of using 2 hands here and just kind of pushing it around. Okay, so what I want to do at this point is that I want to carefully take it off my hand. So just gonna carefully take it. Now I'm really kind of nervous about this whole part of the tutorial, and I'm just gonna rest it down like so. So I'm gonna put my yarn down just like so, and it's approximately in the middle. Okay, and I want to take this yarn and I want to just tie it. So just be very gentle about this and just pull, 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 pull. Pull, keep pulling as hard as you can without breaking this yarn. This yarn is relatively strong, and then if you got a second person in the room that can put their finger down on the knot, you're laughing. But what I did for myself is that because I'm only one person and I don't want to bug Daniel, is this I actually put 2 strings around this. So this is just 1 of 2. Okay, so that's 1 of 2. So I'm gonna grab this again and do a second string, because the first string kind of is your determining on how tight you can possibly get it with that, but with the second string you can get it even tighter. And I'm making sure all of the strands are organized so I don't have any crossovers. Okay, and then I want to take this string and I want to tie it again, and I find I can get a bit tighter with the second string. The more tighter you can get it, the more the look of the pom-pom will be. Now I originally thought 100 revolutions around your hand is quite generous, but then the pom-pom is pretty big. Okay, so now what I want to do is that I want to take my scissors, and this takes a bit of time, is that I want to ram my scissors in all the loops. Okay, so I want to just kind of organize myself and using my scissors, just going in and just start cutting. And so you're gonna have smaller strings that were in close to where your hand was, and the larger strings are gonna be out toward the outside of your hand as it was doing it. So you're gonna have different lengths in here. You just don't wanna make sure that there's no loop. So I just kind of like put in my scissors. If it stops, it means that there's a loop for the most part. Once you get one side done, just turn it over and do the other side. And again, stay toward the one outside as well. So what I'm saying is don't go over here. Now I like my pom-poms, if I'm gonna have a homemade hat, I like my pom-poms to be unorganized and somewhat homemade looking, so it gives me that, you know, that there's nothing better than homemade, I'm sorry. And so I'm just looking for any loops that are not cut. And of course any fibers that are really out of whack you can trim off later. Now the larger ones are where I tied, and basically you can just kind of hold it up and just kind of see what needs to be trimmed out. Just give it a good shake. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now if you do a nice tight one just like the model, you'll have almost a perfect looking one because there's enough fiber to do it. But I like my pom-poms to be a pom-pom, so I like it nice and generous and thick, just like so. So now let's attach this to the hat. So taking the long strings, I want to use those as the ones that are coming through. So just sticking my hook into the inside of the hat and coming onto the outside roughly near the middle. And now this hook is smaller than the one I was using so that I can get it through the stitches. So I'm gonna take at least 2 strings because I did cut with I did tie it twice. So bring 2 strings and pull those through, and I'm using my fingers now to kind of pull those remaining through. And now just turn the hat and do the remaining string on the other side of the center point. So coming on to the other side over here, and then that will make it position itself right into the direct center. Like so, and now I'm using my hands to kind of, I got it through. So now what I want to do is I want to take, I'm grabbing both of them now and I'm pulling it tight. So I'm gonna take this and go toward the inside of the hat, and I want to take that string and just tie it. And I'm gonna tie it nice and tight so it's right in the direct center of the hat. I'm tying a knot. Okay, and then I can trim. If you want to tie it again, you can. And so basically this is my hat at this point. So I have a really nice generous pom-pom on the top, just like so. And then this is my success story. So you can see I still have a little bit of yarn left over, not enough really to do much with it, but you can make even more stuff with it if you wanted to, if you had some extra leftover stuff in order to complete it. So this is how you would do the stepping textured hat, and it's a really great free pattern as well. Until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of Yarnspirations as well as thecrochetcrowd.com. We'll see you.